If you don't love yourself first, no one else will. And I know, you've heard this before. It sounds like one of those cliches people throw around when they don't know what else to say. But let's get real for a second. If you don't believe you are worthy of love, you will never allow yourself to receive it fully. You might get attention, you might get affection, but deep down, you'll sabotage it because some part of you will feel like you don't deserve it. Think about the last time you really liked someone. That person who made your heart race a little, who made you check your phone a little too often, who made you overanalyze every little text message. In that moment, did you feel secure or did you feel anxious? Did you feel like you were standing on solid ground, or did you feel like you were tiptoeing on eggshells, terrified of saying or doing the wrong thing? If it's the latter, then we have a problem, because the way we behave in love is a reflection of how we see ourselves. When you love yourself, you don't chase, you don't beg for attention, you don't twist yourself into a pretzel to be more likable or palatable. You show up as you are, and you trust that if someone is the right person for you, they will recognize your value. The problem is, too many of us are walking around with this quiet belief that we are not enough. And when you believe that, you accept crumbs, you tolerate bad behavior, you excuse the red flags, you justify why someone is treating you poorly instead of walking away. Because deep down, you think that's all you can get. So you hold on to it like your life depends on it. But what if you didn't? What if you truly believed at your core that you are enough, that you are worthy of love, not because of what you do for someone, not because of how much you impress them, but simply because of who you are? When you operate from that place, everything changes. You start setting boundaries, not as a tactic, not as a way to manipulate someone into treating you better, but because it's just who you are. You stop over-explaining yourself to people who don't deserve an explanation. You stop auditioning for love like it's a role you need to win. You stop thinking, how do I make them like me? And start thinking, do I even like them? And let's talk about attraction for a second, because this is important. We've been sold this idea that the way to get someone to love you is to be more interesting, more successful, more attractive, more whatever. But the truth is, real attraction isn't about impressing someone. It's about connection. It's about making someone feel something when they are around you. And the only way to do that is to be fully, unapologetically yourself. Not the version of you that you think they'll like, not the version of you that plays it safe, but the real you. That's where confidence comes from, not from pretending to be something you're not, but from owning exactly who you are. Confidence isn't loud. It isn't arrogance. It isn't about being the most attractive person in the room. It's the quiet knowing that you are enough, regardless of who notices. And when you have that, you stop worrying so much about who stays and who goes. You stop bending over backward for people who wouldn't lift a finger for you. You stop wasting time on people who make you feel like you have to fight for their love. I want you to think about something for a second. If you knew without a shadow of a doubt that the right person was on their way to you, how would you act? Would you still be chasing the wrong ones? Would you still be settling for half-hearted effort? Would you still be waiting for someone to pick you? Or would you be out there living your life, knowing that when the right person shows up, they'll see your value without you having to prove it? And that's the key. The moment you stop looking for someone to complete you is the moment you become truly magnetic, because nothing is more attractive than a person who is already whole. A person who doesn't need someone else to feel worthy. A person who isn't afraid to be alone because they know their own company is just as valuable as anyone else's. So let me ask you this. Are you loving yourself the way you expect someone else to love you? Are you speaking to yourself the way you'd want your partner to speak to you? Are you treating yourself with the respect, care, and kindness that you hope to receive? Because if you're not, you can't expect anyone else to either. It starts with you. It always starts with you. The moment you fully embrace that, you'll stop waiting for someone else to show up and make you feel special. You'll stop putting your worth in someone else's hands. You'll stop looking for love in all the wrong places because you'll realize that the love you've been searching for has been inside you all along. And once you have that, the rest takes care of itself. The more you chase, the more you repel. And this is where so many people go wrong in their love lives. They think if they just show more interest, text more, prove how much they care, they'll somehow win the person over. But attraction doesn't work that way. It's not about convincing someone to like you. It's about becoming the kind of person that naturally draws the right people in. You don't chase, you attract. Think about the most captivating people you've ever met. Were they constantly seeking validation? Were they desperately trying to get attention? No. They had something about them. An energy, a presence, a confidence that made you want to be around them. They weren't trying to get people to notice them. They simply embodied a level of certainty and purpose that made them magnetic. And that's exactly what you need to cultivate in your own life if you want to transform your love life. So how do you stop chasing and start attracting? First, shift your focus. Instead of worrying about whether someone likes you, focus on whether you like them. When you go on a date, don't spend the whole time analyzing their behavior, trying to decipher what they think of you. Instead, pay attention to how you feel. Are you having fun? Do they add to your happiness? Or are you just trying to impress them? When you operate from a place of self-worth, you naturally give off an energy that draws people towards you. The problem with chasing is that it comes from a place of scarcity. It comes from the belief that love is something you have to work for, something you have to earn. But real attraction doesn't stem from desperation. It stems from abundance. You have to believe that love is not a rare commodity, that there isn't just one person out there for you. The moment you embrace the idea that your love life is full of possibilities, you stop clinging to the wrong people out of fear that they're your only chance at happiness. And let's talk about energy for a second. You've met those people who walk into a room and without even saying a word, they just own the space. They don't have to be the loudest person or the center of attention, but there's something about them that draws you in. That energy isn't accidental. It's a result of the way they see themselves, the way they carry themselves, the way they live their lives. If you want to be more attractive, you need to invest in yourself. Build a life you love, chase your passions, work on your confidence. When you have a life that excites you, you won't need to chase anyone because the right people will naturally be drawn to the energy you exude. There's also something incredibly powerful about detachment. This doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you don't invest in relationships, but it does mean you don't need someone to validate you. You can want love without being desperate for it. You can enjoy someone's company without making them the center of your world. And paradoxically, the less you need someone, the more attractive you become. Because nothing is more powerful than knowing you're perfectly okay on your own. If you constantly find yourself in situations where you're the one putting in all the effort, initiating all the conversations, waiting by the phone for a text, hoping they'll finally see your worth, it's time to take a step back. Attraction is not about overextending yourself to prove you're good enough. The moment you start chasing, you send a message that says you are more valuable than me. And the moment someone senses that, they start pulling away. So here's what I want you to do. Stop trying to be chosen and start choosing. Stop making other people the prize and become the prize yourself. The right relationship isn't about convincing someone to want you. It's about two people recognizing each other's value and meeting in the middle. You don't have to play games. You don't have to manipulate. Just be the kind of person who is so fulfilled, so content, so vibrant in their own life that the right people can't help but be drawn to you. That's when you'll realize that attraction isn't about running after something. It's about becoming something that others want to run toward. Most relationships don't fail because of a lack of love. They fail because of a lack of clarity. Love can be there, chemistry can be there, but if you don't know how to communicate your needs effectively, none of it matters. And the worst part, you might not even realize that the way you're communicating is actually pushing someone further away instead of bringing them closer. The truth is, no one is a mind reader. We all like to believe that if someone truly cares about us, they'll just get it. But that's a fantasy. In reality, most of the misunderstandings, most of the heartbreaks, most of the I don't know what happened moments in relationships come down to one thing: unspoken expectations. You expect them to know what you need, and when they don't, you take it personally. And then what happens? You pull away. You become cold, resentful, distant. Or worse, you lash out. Instead of expressing what you actually feel, you bury it until it explodes in frustration, sarcasm, or passive aggressiveness. And now, instead of addressing the problem, you're creating a new one. See, communication isn't just about talking. It's about creating understanding. And the way you express yourself determines whether the person you're with actually hears you or just feels attacked. If you make someone feel like they're constantly failing you, eventually they'll stop trying. If every time they do something wrong, you punish them with silence or guilt, they'll start to feel like nothing they do is good enough. And let me tell you something. The moment someone starts feeling like they're not good enough for you is the moment they start checking out. Not because they don't care, but because no one wants to feel like they're constantly losing a game they never agreed to play. So what's the solution? It starts with learning how to express what you need without making the other person feel like they've already lost before they've even had a chance to understand. Instead of saying, "You never make time for me," say, "I really miss spending quality time with you. Can we plan something soon?" One makes them defensive, the other makes them want to show up for you. Instead of saying, "You don't care about me," say, "I sometimes feel like I'm not a priority and I want to understand how we can fix that." Instead of assuming bad intentions, get curious. Instead of waiting for them to figure it out, tell them. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Communication isn't just about speaking, it's about listening. And most people are terrible at listening. We don't listen to understand, we listen to respond. We wait for our turn to talk. We're so caught up in proving our point, in being right, that we miss what the other person is actually trying to say. And in that moment, we're no longer having a conversation, we're having a competition. But let me ask you something. Do you want to be right? Or do you want to be happy? Because if you're fighting to win, you're losing sight of the real goal, which is to strengthen the relationship. It's not you against them, it's both of you against the problem. And let's talk about timing, because that's another thing people get wrong. The worst time to bring up an issue is in the heat of the moment, when emotions are high and patience is low. Ever tried to have a rational conversation when you're already upset? Doesn't work, does it? That's because when emotions take over, logic takes a back seat. You're no longer solving the problem, you're just reacting. So instead of letting frustration dictate the conversation, take a step back. Give it time. When you're both calm, That's when you can actually talk and be heard. But even when the timing is right, vulnerability is key. And I get it, being vulnerable is scary. It feels like you're handing someone the power to hurt you. But here's the truth. If you can't be vulnerable with the person you're in a relationship with, you're not in a real relationship. You're just playing a game of who can care less. The strongest relationships aren't built on who's better at hiding their feelings. They're built on honesty, on trust, on the ability to say, this is what I need. This is what I struggle with. This is where I'm afraid. Because when you can do that, you create real intimacy. And real intimacy is what makes love last. Now, let's talk about conflict. Because no matter how great your communication skills are, you're still going to have disagreements. But conflict isn't the enemy. Disrespect is. And the way you handle those tough moments determines whether your relationship grows stronger or falls apart. Do you attack or do you try to understand? Do you blame or do you take responsibility for your part? Do you shut down or do you work through it together? Because here's the thing, no one gets it right all the time. You're gonna mess up. They're gonna mess up. But if you both commit to communicating with respect, with patience, with the understanding that you're on the same team, then every challenge becomes an opportunity to get closer rather than another reason to pull away. And finally, if you take nothing else from this, remember this. The way you communicate sets the tone for your relationship. It's not about being perfect. It's about being clear. It's about being honest. It's about showing up with love, even when it's hard. Because when you do that, you don't just build a relationship, you build a partnership. And that's what makes all the difference. It's easy to say you have high standards. It's easy to make a long list of everything you want in a partner. To imagine this perfect person who ticks every box. The challenge isn't in setting the bar high, it's in keeping your heart open while still holding those standards. The real work is in balancing self-respect with humility, in knowing what you deserve, but never letting that turn into entitlement or an unwillingness to connect. Too many people confuse having standards with being rigid. They build walls instead of setting boundaries. They turn expectations into ultimatums and end up pushing away great connections because someone didn't meet an arbitrary checklist on day one. Here's the truth. If you're looking for someone who meets every single one of your requirements from the start, you're not looking for a relationship. You're looking for a finished product. And love doesn't work like that. A relationship isn't about finding someone who's already everything you want. It's about finding someone with the right foundation, the right mindset, the right values. Someone willing to grow with you. Standards should be about the core of who someone is, not a rigid set of demands that don't allow for humanity. If you find yourself dismissing people too quickly, ask yourself, are you really holding a high standard? Or are you just afraid of being vulnerable? Now, let's talk about the flip side. Some people lower their standards because they don't want to be alone. They make excuses for red flags, rationalizing bad behavior just to keep someone around. They convince themselves that being with someone, even someone who isn't right, is better than being single. And that's where you lose yourself. The moment you start accepting less than what aligns with your values, you start diminishing your own worth. This is why balance is key. High standards should never become a shield to keep people out, but they should also never become so flexible that they allow mistreatment. The way you strike that balance is by focusing on what actually matters. It's not about height, job titles, or how smooth they are on the first date. It's about emotional availability, kindness, consistency, and shared values. You don't need perfection. You need someone who is willing to show up, who makes an effort, and who brings out the best in you. The biggest mistake people make is assuming high standards mean expecting more from others than they expect from themselves. If you want someone who is confident, emotionally intelligent, and ambitious, you have to ask yourself, am I embodying those qualities? You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And that's where a lot of people fall short. They create this ideal partner in their mind, but they don't reflect on whether they're showing up as the kind of person that ideal partner would want to be with. One of the most attractive qualities in a person is the ability to be open and kind while still knowing their worth. Confidence isn't arrogance. It's not about being so selective that no one is ever good enough. Confidence is knowing you deserve a great connection, but still being open to getting to know someone, to seeing them as a whole person rather than just a list of traits. And when you show up with that energy, you naturally inspire the right kind of connection. So here's the challenge. Keep your standards high, but your ego low. Stay open to the unexpected. Allow people to surprise you. Give them space to show you who they are, rather than deciding too quickly based on assumptions or surface-level traits. And most importantly, be the kind of person who would make your ideal partner say, I don't want to lose them, because when you do that, you won't have to chase. The right person will meet you at your level and make it clear they belong there. Every single time you go on a date, you have to ask yourself a simple but powerful question. Am I here because I genuinely want to connect with this person, or am I just trying to feel better about myself? This distinction is everything. When you date for validation, you give away your power. You're not focused on what's right for you. You're focused on whether you're being chosen, whether you're being liked, whether this person sees you as enough. And that's the quickest way to end up in a situation where you're compromising, chasing, and ultimately settling for something that doesn't serve you. But when you date with a purpose, everything shifts. You walk into an interaction with clarity. You're not asking, how can I impress them? You're asking, do I even like them? Do we share values? Do I feel good when I'm with them? That small change in mindset puts you back in control. Suddenly, you're not just accepting attention from anyone who gives it, you're filtering, you're choosing, you're making decisions that lead to long-term happiness instead of momentary excitement. And that's where so many people go wrong. They mistake chemistry for compatibility. They feel butterflies and assume it must mean something profound. But those butterflies can come from excitement, from unpredictability, even from anxiety. They're not a guarantee of a strong foundation. And if you're not dating with a purpose, you might chase those butterflies at the expense of everything else. You ignore red flags because you're addicted to the thrill. You keep investing in someone who isn't giving you what you need because deep down, you're hoping that if you're just good enough, interesting enough, attractive enough, they'll finally reciprocate the way you want them to. But that's not how real connection works. Real connection isn't about proving yourself. It's about two people meeting at the same level, both investing, both showing up, both making each other's lives better. And the only way to find that is by approaching dating with the mindset that your time, your energy, and your heart are valuable, because they are. If you go into every date with the belief that you are the prize, you stop settling for situations that drain you. You stop entertaining people who give you mixed signals. You stop clinging to relationships that make you feel uncertain or small. One of the biggest traps people fall into is overvaluing someone's potential instead of their actual behavior. You meet someone and maybe they're charming, maybe they say all the right things, maybe you can see the amazing person they could be, and so you invest. You wait, you justify, you accept less than you deserve because you're hoping that eventually they'll step up. But dating with a purpose means recognizing what's real, not what's possible. It means looking at how someone treats you right now, not how great they could be if only they changed. Because change isn't guaranteed, and no amount of your effort will transform someone who isn't already committed to being better. It's also about knowing when to walk away. When you date with a purpose, you don't waste time on situations that aren't serving you. You don't stay in relationships just because you're afraid of being alone. You don't hold on to someone just because you've already invested so much. You're willing to leave because you know that the right person won't require you to beg for consistency, won't make you question where you stand, won't leave you feeling drained instead of fulfilled. A lot of people think that finding love is about luck, that it's about meeting the right person at the right time. But the truth is, it's about being intentional. It's about making decisions that align with the kind of relationship you want. It's about recognizing that attraction is just one piece of the puzzle, and that true compatibility is built on values, on effort, on mutual respect. When you stop dating for validation and start dating for something real, you stop tolerating mediocrity. You stop settling for breadcrumbs. You stop putting all your energy into someone who only gives you half of theirs. And the best part? When you start operating from this place, everything changes. You carry yourself differently. You set boundaries effortlessly. You attract people who respect you because you respect yourself first. Love stops feeling like a battlefield and starts feeling like a partnership. And isn't that the whole point? There's something people forget when it comes to attraction, and it's this: logic alone doesn't create desire. We spend so much time trying to prove why we're a great catch, listing our achievements, showing how reliable we are, demonstrating our loyalty. But none of that matters if the other person isn't excited to be around us. If there's no thrill, no spark, no sense of, I can't wait to see them again, then all the qualities in the world won't make someone fall in love. Attraction isn't built on logic, it's built on feeling. And if you want to transform your love life, you have to understand the role that playfulness and mystery play in keeping that excitement alive. Now let's talk about playfulness, because I guarantee the moment you become someone who brings more fun, lightness and unpredictability into your interactions, you immediately become more attractive. Playfulness doesn't mean being immature or acting like a clown. It's about creating moments where someone feels good around you. We've all been on dates where the conversation is dull, where it feels like an interview, where every question is just a checklist to determine if we fit into each other's lives. And then we've had those rare moments where everything just clicks, where we're laughing, teasing, and completely in the moment. That's not an accident, that's playfulness at work. Think about the people you're drawn to, the ones who make you feel energized, curious, and just a little bit out of your comfort zone. They know how to inject fun into any situation. They challenge you in a way that feels good. Maybe they tease you about something you said, but with a smile that lets you know they like you. Maybe they create a little game out of a conversation, making you guess something about them instead of just handing you the answer. These moments seem small, but they're powerful because they create emotion. And emotion is what makes people addicted to your presence. Too often, people approach dating as if they need to prove something. They think, if I just tell them everything about me up front, they'll see I'm serious. But that's not how attraction works. Nobody is excited by a story they already know the ending to. You have to create a sense of anticipation, a reason for them to lean in, to want to know more. That's where mystery comes in. And no, I'm not talking about playing games or being emotionally unavailable. Mystery isn't about hiding who you are. It's about revealing yourself in layers. It's about giving someone something to discover, piece by piece instead of dumping your entire life story in the first 10 minutes. People think the way to build a connection is by oversharing, but oversharing too soon can actually kill attraction. Why? Because there's no tension. There's no space for curiosity to grow. When someone gives us everything at once, we don't feel the need to invest because there's nothing left to figure out. But when someone shares things gradually, when they give us just enough to keep us intrigued, we become engaged. We start paying attention. We lean in because we want more. One of the simplest ways to build this kind of dynamic is by learning the power of withholding just enough to keep things interesting. Let's say someone asks, "So, what's your dream vacation?" Instead of just listing off a place, turn it into something playful. I'll give you 3 guesses, and if you get it right, I owe you a coffee. Suddenly, you've turned a simple question into a fun interaction. Or maybe they ask about your weekend plans, and instead of giving them a detailed itinerary, you say, "Something that involves great food and a little adventure. What about you?" You're not being vague to be difficult. You're creating space for engagement. You're making the conversation dynamic instead of just transactional. Mystery is also about how you reveal your emotions. Some people wear their hearts on their sleeves so openly that there's no room for curiosity. If, after one date, you're already expressing how deeply you feel about someone, you remove the natural rhythm of attraction. It's like starting a book and immediately reading the last page. There's no journey. Instead, let the connection unfold naturally. Show interest, but let things breathe. Give space for the other person to wonder about you a little, to miss you, to think about what you're feeling instead of having everything spelled out for them. Think about the last time you were really drawn to someone. It probably wasn't just because of what they said. It was how they made you feel. Maybe it was the way they looked at you in a moment of silence. Maybe it was how they playfully challenged you in a way that made you step up. Maybe it was how they shared a story but left just enough out that you wanted to hear more. That's the kind of attraction that sticks. That's what makes you unforgettable. So many people make the mistake of thinking love is about finding the right person and convincing them to stay. But love isn't about convincing, it's about inspiring. You don't inspire someone by being predictable. You inspire them by creating moments that are impossible to forget. By being someone who brings energy, curiosity, and just the right amount of unpredictability into their world. When you learn to master this, you'll notice something incredible. The right people won't just like you, they'll crave you. Because at the end of the day, attraction isn't just about words, it's about experience. People don't remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel. And if you make them feel excited, challenged, and just a little bit addicted to the experience of being around you, they won't want to be anywhere else.